Good morning and welcome back to Other Worlds Wednesday here on Gaming with ADHD, where today we're going to be taking a look at Dragonbane, Mirth and Mayhem role-playing from Free League Publishing. Now, this was originally run through Kickstarter and is based on the Swedish role-playing game Drachar och Demoner, if I'm saying that correctly. Anyone from Sweden, especially the folks from Free League, please forgive me if I got that wrong. But it was a role-playing game in the 1980s, and basically Free League decided to resurrect it, bring it back, and basically put a little bit of the Free League spin on this fantasy role-playing game. Now, today what we're going to do is we're actually going to look through the starter box, which was provided to me by Free League, free of charge. So, while they did provide it to me, the fact that it was free does not actually color my opinion on it. So, just to keep that in mind. But before we get started, do make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I do try to put out a few different videos each week covering all sorts of tabletop gaming content, whether it's role-playing games, miniatures, board games, honestly, even just related to, ideas, products, whatever. So I'd love for you to come along, see what we have to share. In addition, there are links in the description to DriveThruRPG and Amazon that are affiliate links. They do give a little bit of a kickback to the channel, but if you'd like to support the channel, I'd absolutely appreciate it. So with all of that out of the way, let's turn over to the infamously small work table and take a look at what you get in the box. All right, so I probably should move my paint water out of the way. But this is the box for Dragonbane, Mirth and Mayhem role-playing. Now, it is a box set. As you can see on the back, you actually get quite a bit. It's fairly hefty as far as the box goes. I believe the retail cost on this, which I probably should have looked up ahead of time. Give me 1 second. Let's take a look here. I'm just jumping to the Free League store real quick. All right, the Dragonbane core set currently is $45.12. Now, that is converted over from Swedish kroner, so you'll want to keep that in mind. But $45.12, that does give you, an entire role-playing game. Now, it is a box set, and typically those are associated with being starter sets. But I'll be honest, I've also peeked at the contents a little bit. But we're going to go through it, see what you actually get inside, and I'll let you judge whether you think it's worth it. All right, so open up the box. First off, they've got this nice glossy box. Other than that, though, it's a box. It's a nice box, but it's a box. All right, so first off, we've got a bunch of contents. So we've got standees for, you do get... or stands for the standees, because you do get some basically punch out miniatures, so monsters, heroes, things like that. We get a catalog of games from Free League. It's marketing. You have a box of stuff, give people some marketing. Duh. All right, we then have the dice, which this is a good first. Okay, first off, the green, I really like this green. This actually comes out really nice. It's a nice, bright, sharp green. Now, there are also special faces on the 20. I actually really like the way they did that. That's the demon at the 20. And that is the dragon for the 1. So you do find that on the 20s. You get a full set of role-playing dice, 4d6, 2d20, a d10, a d12, a d8, and a d4. It's dice. But I'll be honest, I'm not going to complain about more dice and the fact that they look good. I don't know why. Honestly, for plain colored dice, and honestly, I don't even think the camera's capturing the color very well, but for just plain colored dice, I really like these. They actually look really good. They're a nice emerald color. Honestly, even if even regardless of my thoughts on the game, I'm just excited about the dice. All right, now we've got 2 packs of cards. Free League likes to use these a lot, but they are for, they can be used for items. So if you need to find a random treasure, pull the card. Oh, hey, it's worth 2d6 gold coins, 46, 10, etc. So let's see. So these are all different treasures, so weapons, armor. I like how it just gives you the stats right on the card, or if it has special rules, what exactly they do and how to use it. So that's the treasure. Well, you could find a rat in the treasure. I don't want a rat for treasure. That's not very fun. All right, now these are adventure cards. I like this. So, Ritter Mound. This side of the Iron Forest, there's an unholy place with huge stones rising into the sky. Ritter Mound, it's called. Named after a dark knight who was chained by the gods when the world was young. They say he was buried alive in the mound along with his family, his servants, and all his riches. So, this is fantastic. These are just, if you're stuck for the night, you're not quite sure what to do, or maybe you're running it as kind of a sandbox adventure. This gives you a lot to work with. I'll be honest, especially with games like Shadowrun, things like that, they've been putting out some card decks that are actually really useful. I'm more familiar with the cards that have come out from Paizo. They're fine, but it seems like they're getting a little bit better with what they're putting out. All right, so we've got another pack of cards. Clearly this I did not peek at beforehand. All right, so these are the initiative cards, 1 through 10. Basically, when you need to determine initiative, basically you'll deal out a card to each player and each monster, and then act accordingly. All right, and then we've got, actually let me move these adventure cards. All right, so we've got a whole lot more treasure. All right, let's look at that real quick. All right, so we've got copper, silver, and gold. Okay, so that's the rest of the coinage. And then improvised weapons. So, all right, so this is interesting. They mark where you should use it. The forest, a cave, the inn. Okay, basically your 3 most common areas. Obviously, say you're in the mountains or something, you could use the forest, but, adjust it accordingly. So, but, 4, 5, 10, 50, 18 cards. Yeah, that's fine. Boiling cauldron, bucket of soapy water, burning firewood. Okay, this is just fun. And these are things that you should think about, but sometimes just having the cards and being able to have a prompt to say, hey, yeah, here's a thing. Use that. I like that. All right, so those are all the cards you get with. So you have improvised weapons, adventure locations, treasures, and your initiative. All right. We then have our Welcome to Dragonbane. If this is your first role-playing game, congratulations. Blah, blah, blah. Tools, getting started. Okay, so this is actually cool. With a starter box, they're saying, okay, decide who will be the game master. If you just open the box and you're the first one reading it, it's going to be you. Let each player create a character using the rules, or pick one of the pre-generated characters included in the box set. As Game Master, familiarize yourself with the rulebook and read the introduction and the opening scene in the Adventures book. Let the game begin. All right, so I like that. They're just saying, hey, you're new. Here's what you start with. Okay? One of my, if you've been here on the channel for any length of time, I just realized that was all out of focus. Now I feel bad about that, folks. There we go. We'll leave that while I kind of explain this story. If you've been following the channel for any length of time, you'll have heard me tell the story about how I picked up the Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook, and it just said, hey, make a character. Okay, why? How does this work? What's the game? What are the rules? It didn't give me any of that, okay? So, the fact that they say, pick your game master, that's important. Let the players create characters, and then as the game master, learn the rules and read the introduction and the opening scene from the adventures. Bam! They told you, hey, you want to get started? This is what you got to do. Okay? None of that is mentioned in the Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook. I really like that. That's needed. More role-playing books should include that. All right. First book, finally. All right, so this is the rules. All right, it's got a matte finish, which is rather nice. We've got our duck thief ranger, something, I don't know, whatever he is. Yes, you can play an anthropomorphic duck in the game. Overall, the book is like, it's a semi-gloss page, but you get the full rules. So all of the rules for the game are in this book. As you can see from the contents, the book is 112 pages, so it's not even that thick, but it gives you everything that you need. Now, I did also get a PDF of this, so that I've already been reading through the rules. And we'll actually flip over to that here in just a minute to actually talk about some of the things that I like about the rules, and what I think about the game in general. But overall, the book is organized very well. So again, going back to my Dungeons & Dragons story, I know we're trying to talk about Dragonbane, but I keep bringing up D&D. It just says, make a character. And this, it says, it was in the oldest of times, before the world was covered in forest and iron, was tamed by dwarven masters, before the advent of humanity and the mastery of the bread and ale making arts. The world was then ruled by dragons and demons. Yes, draconic serpents and demonic creatures were the princes and princesses of the oldest times. They were the primordial forces through which the world and its primeval matter was formed, the sky, the mountains, and the fiery oceans of magma and unthinking life. They were opposing principles that made the world complete, law and order versus chaos and madness, the stable and fixed versus the wild and eternally fluid, dragons versus demons. So right there, they're giving you a hook. They're saying, okay, there's good people, there's bad people. What side are you going to come? I mean, they're not asking that question directly, but essentially they're saying, what side are you going to be on? How are you going to interact with this world? And then it goes into a couple of paragraphs. We've got players, we've got the game master. So, they are taking you. They've got the hook in your mouth and they're setting it. Okay, you've already taken the bait. So, I like that. That is how a role-playing game needs to introduce itself. If you're not going to tell me why I'm playing the game, I'm most likely not going to play it. So, we'll look through more of the art when we look at the PDF. Oh, Battletech interruption. But I like the art. It's a sort of cartoon style. Actually, what I would equate it more is like the old Hobbit cartoon movie. Looks very, very similar to that, but does still have its own flavor. So again, you can play the mallard, you can play a wolfkin. I've heard some people not big fans of the mallards, but let's be honest, folks. Right on the cover of the box, it says Mirth and Mayhem role-playing. Mirth and Mayhem. Okay. They've already set you up for it. Who cares? It's a duck. If you don't want ducks in your game, don't use them. If you want to recreate Daffy, Sir Daffy, you got an option here. Okay. Anyways, that's just my thing. So then we've got classes, very stereotypical fantasy role playing classes. Um, but again, they're it's all put together very well. Going into character creation, your skills, combat and damage, melee combat, magic. Obviously, list out a bunch of skills, and then actually has the. I think I went a little too far. Oh no, this is still magic. Sorry. You can summon different creatures. All right, you've then got your gear and your bestiary. Okay, all of this is within the 112 pages. Now you're thinking, okay, well, wait a second, that's not a whole lot of content. Folks, skeletons, trolls. I'm assuming there's zombies in here. Nope, there are no zombies. But again, skeletons, trolls, orcs. You have everything you need for a campaign. You'll be fine. Okay. But I love the art. I love the style. I love the look of it. There's not too little art, and there's not too much art. Obviously, it's a rule book. They've got to get the rules out, and space is at a premium. Okay. So overall, I like how that book is laid out. 112 pages, perfect. All right. You know what? I'm just going to take the rest of this out. Surprise. All right. So we then have the adventure book. Basically, it is full of scenarios. So you do get a map of... What did they call this area? Okay, so this is actually... Okay, right here. Welcome to the adventure book for Dragonbane. On these pages, you will find no fewer than 11 complete adventures which together form the epic campaign, The Secret of the Dragon Emperor. Actually, I guess I could zoom in. Except for the Isle of Mist, which is the campaign finale, the adventures can be played in any order, and you do not even need to play all of them. Each can be played as a standalone adventure, if that is what you prefer. For the adventures, you will find the opening scene of the campaign, a detailed description of the outskirt village in the Misty Vale, where the adventures take place, and a chapter with random encounters that can take place during journeys in the valley. Okay, so it's the Misty Vale. So obviously this, for the GM's eyes only. It's an adventure book, folks. Come on, don't spoil it. But we'll look at the map. Yeah, I know as a part of the Kickstarter they did a big cloth map, but regardless, right in here this still looks good. A little bit of history, course of events, and the opening scene. All right. So I don't want to look at the whole thing, but just for the adventure, so we've got the outskirt, which is a village, I guess. The arrival, the situation, random events and rumors, and locations. So, I mean, they're giving you tons of information. Obviously, you can take this to build your own campaigns, modify it, make new adventures, come back to a location, things like that. We've got a crypt as part of this. And... Oh, no, outskirt... Never mind, that was the starting town. I'm sorry, folks. I did not read through the adventure thing. I don't know if I'm going to be a player or the GM. I didn't want to spoil it. But regardless, I mean, they're giving you lots of information. And again, they're still giving you a lot of this really good art. And a lot of it is new art as well. So, you know, again, this is great. And it's another 116 pages. So... it's a decent-sized book, too. All right. Now, this is actually kind of cool. Alone in Deepfall Breach, a solo dungeon delving campaign for Dragonbane. So, they give you what you need to play a solo game. Now, I haven't dug into this as much as I should have probably before doing these rules, or this review. Man, I am having a day. But it it basically uses the fortune system, which I believe came out of the Mythic solo role playing game rules. But basically, it gives you prompts to things you can do, and then you will react based on how the solo rules react. So they give you a solo adventure and the rules on how to play it. This is a little 12-page booklet, so again, 12 more pages of content. All right, I forgot we get the paper map of the Misty Vale. My infamously small work table. So, mapped with all the locations. There's Outskirt. This is a nice, heavy-duty stock. If you were a Kickstarter backer, I was not. That is listed there. I don't mind it, but I would have preferred they put this in the pages of one of the books, because this would have been nice to see, like, alternate maps or maybe zoom in on some locations. Maybe some alternate locations, things like that. That would have been a little more useful, but I understand why they did it, so I'm not really upset over that. All right, we then get some play mats. So we've got kind of like a greenish cave. We've got some dungeon tile. So there you go. Now, the downside here, this is not laminated. Don't write on it. Okay. The markers they give you do not have any terrain. So you will want things like Mantic's terrain crate. Just like some individual dungeon items, or get tokens. Like you can take, you can print them out on heavy duty paper, things like that. Make your own little items, but don't write on this. Another idea: get like some plexiglass, put it over top, and then you can draw on the plexiglass. Okay, but you do get this, so you have a little bit of a battle mat. All right, we then have actually, you know what? Let's jump ahead and look at the miniatures. Overall, so we got a harpy, a manticore, troll, demon, scorpion tail guy, some goblins, variety pack of heroes. We've got our Mallard Scholar and our Mallard Knight. So you do get some different options. Now, this is a race and class system, although they call it kin and professions. So double-sided, but the same art on either side, just reversed. Obviously, because the punch-outs are shaped. We have a dragon, giant spider, griffin, giant minotaur, more goblins, teeny tiny goblins, skeletons, orcs. So you get bad guys too. Overall, these are fine. The cost for miniatures is obviously high, but they've already got all of the art. For them to actually provide just some paper miniatures, or paper standees, I have zero issues with that. I think it's a brilliant move. All right, then we have the pre-generated characters. They also give you some blank character sheets. But we've got Baston Bloodjaw and all of his stats. I'll pull it up on the PDF so it actually looks a little bit bigger. Chrysana the Bold, Makander of Half Bay, Orla Moonsilver, Archmaster Audan, probably said that horribly wrong, And then we've got blank character sheets. Double-sided. I will probably never use these because these are really, really nice. Nice paper, nice printing. I will probably just print some. They've probably got a PDF somewhere. Actually, I think in the PDF collection that I got. I will just print them off and use those because otherwise that just hurts my soul. So, anyways, all right, that is not where I wanted to go. All right, so let's take a look at the PDF of the rules. I do that just so that it's a little bit clearer and a little bit easier to see. All right. Main thing, like I said, the game is it uses standard dice. I wasn't in Sweden in the 80s, and I don't know what the original game was like. This is very similar to many other fantasy role-playing games that you see today, especially the big one. A lot of the stats are the same. A lot of the dice, or actually all of the dice are the same. You have the exact same dice available. So that's something to keep in mind. I do think this is worth it. What I have read and my understanding of the rules, again, I have not had a chance to put this to the table, but just my read through and my understanding of how they put the rules together. Overall, I'm very happy with it. I think it's a nice, clean, fast system. So real quick, we'll just look at this. We've got, for the kin, we've got humans. Each... that didn't work like I wanted it to, or that. Each kin does have an ability. Okay, so this is just granted for free. You don't have to pay for it. Just all of them get it. And then there's some cost in willpower points. Willpower points are sort of like edge or bennies, something like that. Although, essentially, it's a resource that everybody has their own little pool of. And you can use that during the encounter. So humans, when rolling for a skill, you can choose to make the roll using another skill of your choice. You must be able to justify how you use the selected skill instead of the normal one. Okay, so again, you get their feats. Let's be honest, they're feats. It's fine. I do like that they give you, both male and female first names, so you get, kind of an idea, what to name your character. But then we've got halflings, we've got dwarves, elves, mallards. Mallards are the only ones that get two abilities based on their kin. They are ill-tempered. Yes, you can literally make Sir Donald. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it's kind of the default setting. And then the ability of webbed feet. Basically, you are better at any swimming rolls. Surprise. And then the wolfkin. Now, as far as the professions, you have the artisan, so a smith, or, like for your starting gear, you can either have hammer, hand axe, knife. So you work with metal, you work with leather, you work with wood, whatever it is. I mean, it's a fantasy artisan. That's essentially your options. The bard, the fighter, the hunter, the knight, the mage, the mariner. I think this one's a bit weird to add, mostly because of the fact that, yes, there's a lake and a river in the Misty Vale, but it's a valley. There's not a whole lot of sailing going on. So maybe this would have been better for, like, the ocean-going expansion. I don't know. I haven't heard about any expansions yet, but hopefully soon. All right, then there's the merchant, the scholar, the thief. Okay, so those are all the different kin and professions that you can be. Now, a couple of things that I wanted to point out. So, when generating your ability or your attributes, there's a lot of different arguments out there about how is best to do it. A lot of people like 3d6 straight down the line. If you don't like it, make a new character. Okay? At that point, all you've done is roll your stats. Doesn't matter. Some people like to roll 4, take the drop the lowest. Some like to roll and put the stats wherever you want. It's up to you. Now, this one, tries to thread the needle. It works. I don't know. I don't think it necessarily makes it any better. Personally, as I have evolved my thinking on the process, I prefer 3d6 straight down the line. Play it with your stats as rolled, because it will force you to be a different role player. It will make you be somebody else. Because you don't have full control over your stats. But let's take a look at what they say. So they say your starting scores: roll 46 and remove the worst die. So roll 4, drop the lowest, which gives you a score between 3 and 18. Assign that score to an attribute of your choice. Now, this I think is kind of interesting because you roll and assign. You don't roll them all. So you do have to be a little strategic in picking where your stats go. So, say you want to go with a fighter and you roll an 8 up front. Well, maybe put that into your charisma or something. I don't know. So you can kind of try to decide, but if you still haven't gotten the roll that you want for your strength, when that comes to be your last score, maybe not so great. Now, repeat the process until you've assigned a score to each attribute. You must assign each score as you roll them, but once done, you may swap 2 scores. So that's where you're going to be able to get around and take that high strength that you want for your fighter and swap it with another attribute. But I don't know. Like I said, I think it's kind of splits the difference, but I don't know. I don't necessarily know that it's any better. It's interesting. I'm not going to say to not do it that way. But just like any other role-playing game, it's your game. Do what you want with it. But I think this is they're trying to balance it out to try and force people to accept lower scores, but they're also trying to give some flexibility. So, like I said, it works, doesn't work. Play the game. Have some fun. All right. The stats are basically normal: strength, constitution, agility, intelligence, willpower, charisma. Surprise. All right, then it gets into the heroic abilities, gear. Encumbrance, I think, was done fairly interesting. Basically, you have a certain number of lines on your character sheet, which that was small. All right, let's... All right, so you have your inventory here on the right. So with the way that the encumbrance works, you can carry a number of items equal to half of your strength. So if you have a strength of 12, you can carry 6 items. Surprise, you have 10 slots on the character sheet. Now, if you have heavy items, basically it takes up a certain number of rows equal to its weight. So you don't have to worry about, I can carry 100 kilos of equipment, and the armor is 73 and the sword is 6.5. You don't have to do any of that. It's just, your sword is 1. Okay, it takes up 1 slot. There are some things that, like if they are tiny, like I have 3 coins, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect your encumbrance. They shouldn't take up any space in the inventory. But there are things where, if you put a bunch of tiny items together, then it becomes a regular item. Put even more together, it counts as an even bigger item. Things like that. They do also take into account your armor, your backpack, things like that. Overall, they try to keep it nice and simple, and don't worry about the math. Just worry about, make it reasonable. That's one thing that I have noticed with this game, is a lot of it is just be reasonable, and I really do like that. All right, they then talk about experience. So At the end of the game session, the GM asks you the following questions about the session you just completed. For each question that you can reply yes to and justify your answer, you may place another advancement mark next to an unmarked skill of your choice. The GM has the final word, but should adopt a permissive attitude. Did you participate in the game session? Did you explore a new location? Did you defeat one or more dangerous adversaries? Did you overcome an obstacle without using force? Did you give in to your weakness? Okay. So, let's see here. So these are the skills. I'm assuming these marks just to the left are the advancement mark. After placing your marks, roll a d20 for each of them. If the result exceeds your current skill level, it is increased by 1 up to a maximum of 18. Once you have made your advancement rolls, erase the marks and start over in the next game session. So, you have a possibility of increasing your skill, but not necessarily. So, as you can see, these are the skill numbers for the character. One thing that I didn't like very much is that once you derive the attributes, so all of your skills are connected to the attribute. Right here, that marks what attribute controls that skill. And so then your attribute, if your attribute is 1 to 5, then you have a base chance of 3. So you have a skill level of 3. If you 6 to 8 is 4, 9 to 12 is 5, 13 to 15 is 6, 16 to 18 is 7. Now, that's the base skill that you get. If you decide to take that as one of your skills during character creation, you're going to double it. So if you have like an 18 strength and your skill is related to strength, well, then you get a 14 for that particular trained skill. I don't necessarily mind the here's your value, double it if you trained it. The issue that I have is just the numbers. I don't know. For some reason, my brain hasn't locked into the math on it. That would probably just come with time, but for right now, it just seems a little odd. But we'll get into how the skill value works here in just a minute. Overall, the skills are fine. I like how they're organized. I would like to see something a little bit more as far as what skills you can use as far as trained, untrained, things like that. Now, when you are making a skill test, to me, basically, this is always the core of a role-playing game. What is it you use to resolve an action? Okay, so you're trying to hit, like in this case, you're trying to hit someone with your staff. Okay, well, you have a staff skill of 10. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take a d20 and you're going to roll it, and you're rolling low. That's why the dragon is a 1 and the demon is a 20. Okay. Now, sometimes you will get what's called a boon, or basically it's advantage. Okay. However, so actually, let me back up a little bit. So when you roll a dragon, that's a critical. So if you roll a 1, then the GM should give you some sort of a bonus. The GM gets to decide what it is. If you roll, and that's if you roll a 1. Now, anything else underneath the skill value, so if you have a skill value of 8 and you roll a 6, you succeeded at whatever the task was. If you roll over your value, you failed. If you roll a 20, you rolled a demon, and that's a critical failure. Okay? Fairly simple. GM gets to decide something bad that happens to you. Then, as far as, being able to modify that, you have boons and you have banes. So for every boon that you have, you get to roll an additional d20. So if you get 3 boons, you get to roll 4d20. And then for each bane, you also get to roll an additional d20. However, each bane cancels out each boon. Okay? So if you have 3 boons and 1 bane, you have 2 total boons, and so you would roll 3 dice. Now, if you have boons for the particular test, well, then you're rolling that many dice, and you're looking for the lowest of all of the dice that you roll. If you have a bane, then you're doing the exact opposite. You're rolling that many dice, and you're looking for the highest of the rolls. It's that simple. If you fail a roll, you can actually choose to push it, which means you can make another attempt. The new result applies, but if you had any boons or banes, you have to re-roll all of the dice. And whenever you push, then you would suffer a condition. So maybe you're tired or angry, scared, whatever it is, but you have that extra chance to try and succeed. Now, once you have all 6 conditions, you can no longer push until, let's see, until like you rest, end of the session, something along those lines. Okay, so you got to be careful with pushing. But overall, I mean, that's essentially the rules of the game. This I like. It's a very rules-light system. As far as the monsters, let me get down to that because I'm clearly doing this, absolutely professionally. So like taking the dragon. So with the monsters, basically they have a few different stats, but not that many. So they have their ferocity. So for each point of ferocity, they get 1 initiative card. So in this case, the dragon would get 3 attacks. It has a size, a movement, an armor value, and a number of hit points. Okay, so obviously hit points, you need to do that much damage. And then you have basically the list of attacks. Now I forget... Let's see. All right, so it says a monster always uses a monster attack when it attacks. Each monster has a unique set of monster attacks which are summarized in a table. The GM rolls or chooses an attack from this table when it is the monster's turn to attack. Monsters never roll dice to hit their target. Monster attacks succeed automatically. Performing a monster attack counts as an action unless otherwise specified. Monster attacks have the same range as melee attacks, i.e. 2 meters. Oh yeah, that's one thing. A square represents 2 meters or 5 feet. It doesn't matter. It's an arbitrary number. I mean, they're obviously trying to keep it very similar, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's 2 meters or 5 feet. It still works. As a rule, a monster attack can be dodged but not parried. This applies to attacks with an area of an effect as well, but not fear attacks. So overall, again, it's kept very simple. Ferocity, size, movement, armor, hit points. Okay. I like this. I like how they keep the rules very, very simple. As far there's not really special abilities. I mean, the special abilities come through the monster attacks. Like for our dragon, we've got the dragon roar, the claw attack, the dragon wind, tail strike, dragon bite, and fire breath. Everything that you expect from a dragon. DM, pick it or roll on the dice. I can't see it being any more simple. So, to be honest with you, I like how they put these together. Overall, I guess I should say, actually, hold on. Last thing I do want to mention, and we will flip back over to the infamously small work table. They did send a GM's guide and an extra set of dice. First off, they gave me more dice in this amazing green. I'm very happy about that. The dice will run you about $17.94. At least that's what it's currently on the website. The GM screen is $20.66. It's a GM screen. Use it accordingly. I know, not very exciting to describe it that way, but they give you a breakdown on your actions. What happens if you roll a demon, or what happens if you roll a demon in melee, a demon in range combat. So it gives you some ideas on how to do that. Calculating initiative, what happens when they're at 0 hit points. So it takes a lot of these little rules, as is typical, and just kind of summarizes it. There's a list of, if I can zoom in, of typical NPCs, what skills they'd have, abilities, damage, hit points, gear. There's not, obviously it's charts, but it's not anything crazy. It's not anything complicated. Honestly, I think most of them are bad things, but I think that's a great thing to put in the GM screen. The stuff that the player or the GM is going to want to, throw at their players. And then honestly, you get more of the dragon art to go with it. So overall, first thing I want to say is thank you to Free League for sending me this copy. I had not heard of Dragonbane before they sent out some promotional requests saying, hey, who wants to look at this? And I said, you know what? Sure. It does look interesting. I love the art. This art absolutely speaks to me. I normally don't go in for fantasy games, but for some reason, I really, really like how they put this together. Like I said, there are some quirks. It's going to be Free League already has a fantasy game in Forbidden Lands, but this and I would say that there are a few things that are very similar to Forbidden Lands in the fact that you've got the Misty Veil and everything's kind of self-contained there, but it also has a very different flavor than Forbidden Lands. I've been needing to do a Forbidden Lands review forever, but it's much darker. I would say similar to like a Warhammer Fantasy roleplay. It's very kind of a grim, dark setting, whereas Dragonbane, there's dark forces in the world, but it's a little bit more lighthearted. It kind of gives you that, to me, gives sort of that 80s cartoon Dungeons and Dragons kind of a feel. Something that gets you excited about playing, puts a little bit of tension in there, but at the end of the day, is more about fun than, exploring the dark things. Yes, there are demons. Yes, there are I get that, but it's their representation of, good versus evil. So yeah, honestly, I would highly recommend it. If you've been looking for a new fantasy game, this is absolutely something I would recommend checking out. So with all of that said, now that I've talked for almost an hour, if you're interested, there is a link to Drive-Thru RPG and also to Amazon where you can pick this up. And in addition, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up. Don't forget, down in the description, we will have all of our links to our social, things like that. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and we will talk to you next time. Bye.